Hey guys, so if you want to see my thoughts and feelings on the iCandy Cosmetics London Pina Colada palette, just keep on watching. Okay, so I saw iCandy on Instagram, I think it was like a month, maybe a month and a half ago, and I saw this palette. This was the one that made me feel like, oh, I want to check them out. And when I did, I realized that they have like, I think it's 20% off sales, or they did have a 20% off sale just before I had discovered them. And at the time when I wanted to buy this palette, they weren't having the 20% off sale. So I was just kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna buy it yet. I'm gonna wait until they have the 20% off sale. So I waited and waited. I kind of just forgot about them in the meantime, to be honest. And then they came back around again because somebody that I follow on Instagram was reviewing this palette. So when she had mentioned that, oh, they're having a 20% off sale, like she showed some swatches, she gave her review. I was kind of like, okay, I definitely want to try them out. So I believe that this palette here was £16, and then I got an additional 20% off. Then I had to pay like £3 something to get item posted to me. It came literally within 2 days, something to that effect. It was really quick. And I do believe that they ship overseas because they do have an option to choose a different country in the cart section of the website. So I do believe that they ship overseas, but I wouldn't know how much they charge to ship overseas. So I'm going to show you the inside of the palette, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's very colorful, and that was what drew me to this palette. Now I do have some of the shades on. I have this color here, this pink. I also have this one here and this one here as well. So kind of I went for the pinks, the purples, the peaches, and as you can see, this has an array of colors. On their website, I believe they have, I think it was like a glitter palette as well, makeup sponges. They have some other stuff too. So if this wasn't up your street, they do have some other stuff for you to have a look at. Also, I'm not sure if you can see it here, I don't want to blind you, but they also have like a full-size mirror. And this palette, it feels very weighty, so it kind of feels like it's a quality palette. It doesn't feel light and airy and stuff like that. It actually feels quite sturdy. It feels really weighty. Now what I will say is that this palette is a little bit bigger than, for example, my Juvias Place palettes. As you can see, if I was to put them like corner to corner, if I put them corner to corner, you'll be able to see that the Pina Colada palette is a bit bigger than the Juvias Place palette. And with the pan sizes, they're roughly the same, but I think that the Juvias ones are a tad bit bigger. They're probably like a millimeter or two bigger. So on the back of this palette, it gives you all of the ingredients, and the first two ingredients is talc and mica, but it also does say that it is cruelty free, and it has the cruelty free bunny here at the back as well. So that is something that I do appreciate. Okay, so when I first opened it, I couldn't help myself. I had to swatch it. I really did have to swatch it. But when I swatched it at first, I felt that the shades were not pigmented. So I kind of had to get that first layer off. And when I got that first layer off, they were so pigmented, as I'm about to show you. Okay, so these are the swatches of the palette. As you can see, they are very bright, and I had to put my finger in, like rub my finger in the shadows to make them like show up a lot on my fingers so I can swatch it. And also the 3 shimmers that are in this palette are at the top, and I really did have to dig my finger into those shades to make them come off as pigmented and creamy as they are. But you kind of have to be careful. I'm not too sure if you can tell, but like here on this green and here on this purple, I rubbed it, so I had to rub it so hard that it basically started to crumble away. But it did, like, the payoff is really nice, but it's just a shame that I had to rub so hard in order for the shadow to come off on my finger with a decent pigment or a decent level of pigment. So that is something that I would say for you to keep in mind if you did want to get this palette. Now when I used it, and as you can see I have got this on my eyes as I have said, so when I used this I found that when I was popping on this peachy orangey shade and putting this one in the crease, I found it was a little bit difficult for me to pick it up on my fluffy brush, because I tend to like to go in with a fluffy brush on my crease and to set my concealer. But when I was trying to put those on, I just found that building up that colour was a little bit on the difficult side. And this was after I had already removed the first top layer with my finger the day before. So I was kind of like, oh, I'm not too sure why it's doing that. And I had to use a small crease brush to stamp on the colour and then blend it out. That way I was able to get the colour payoff that I was looking for. So that's what I would advise with this palette, is you're gonna have to probably stamp on the shadow in order for it to show up in a very, very vibrant way, because it doesn't just pick up on a fluffy brush and dispense itself in a vibrant way. It's kind of sheer. So that's just something to keep in mind. I haven't yet used the shimmers on my eyelids, so I can't say how they perform on the eyes, but I can speak on the way that the mattes do, because those are what I have actually used so far. And what I have found is, even I've worn this all day, and even though there's like a slight bit of like creasing in the crease, it's nowhere near as much creasing as other palettes and other eyeshadows have performed in the past. So I'm kind of mystified as into how it is that I've worn this all day and there's barely any creasing. You know, like you get that little bit that's missing on the crease after you've worn your eyeshadow for so many hours. I don't feel like this is doing it that much. Maybe I stamped on so much eyeshadow that it was just impossible for it to crease. It's really strange. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing, because who wants their eyeshadow to crease? I mean, so on that, I absolutely love that. I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all. Sorry, I did say that I didn't use any of the shimmers, and as I looked in the mirror, I realized actually I did use one of the shimmers. I used the gold in my inner corner. Yeah, that's something that I'm really fascinated about. Like, how is it not creasing in my crease? That's so strange. I don't know. I also think that with this kind of palette, using it on its own is a little bit of a feat. I mean, you can create some looks on their own. You could use these three, 1, 2, 3, to make like a sunset kind of thing, as I have used these three here. You could potentially use those three together. But this morning when I was looking at it, I was kind of like, okay, what am I actually going to do? So you may find that you're going to pull in other eyeshadows from other palettes to create a full, complete look, if you don't just want to go for a bright, vibrant look. I think that's what I'm trying to say. If you weren't trying to just go for a pow, in-your-face, bright, vibrant kind of eyeshadow look, you're probably gonna have to pull in another palette to complete that look. So it is, in my opinion, a palette that would need to be accompanied by something else, especially as it hasn't got a very blatant and obvious crease shade, crease color. But nonetheless, it is a beautiful, vibrant palette. I'm at the moment, I'm kind of like half and half. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it, because I know that I can't just pick up the shades on my brush. I have to really dig in my brush and stamp on the shadow in order for it to show up. I can't just use it on a fluffy brush and just sweep some of the color on, which is a bit like, there's no way to make like a more subtle, colorful look. Otherwise it's not going to show up. And when you're swirling your brush so much, you're making a lot of fallout happen. You're generating a lot of fallout. You're gonna have to blow it away. So you're gonna be using a lot of, or wasting a lot of the eyeshadow. So that is something that is making me go, if I hadn't taken off the top layer of the eyeshadow, I would kind of be like, this isn't a good palette, if I'm 100% honest. But I thought, you know what, let me take off the top layer and let's see what happens. And from there, it was good, but even still, I have to rub my fingers in the shadow. So for me, it's kind of like, it's in the middle. I am going to keep on playing with it. And as I have said, I really like the fact that it does not crease, and that once I have stamped on the eyeshadow, it is quite vibrant. It's just a shame that I can't create a little bit more of a subtle, colourful look if I wanted to using this palette. So it's not a bad palette. I have used better. I couldn't really say it's on the level of Juvias, but I think that they have the potential to climb up there and formulate even better palettes than this. And especially as they are an indie brand, it looks like they're quite new to the game as well. So they have a lot of space and a lot of room to grow. So I'm kind of like, let's just watch this space. This isn't bad at all. I just want to see them. Like when I compared Juvia's Nubian palette, their first little green one, to their Warrior palette, which was like their most recent palette, it was like, that was good. But this is amazing. Like they have grown, like they've made their formulas even better. And I think that iCandy has the opportunity to do that as well, and probably has the ability to do that also. So I can't wait to see what they bring out next. And like, I hope that this one has like the next one has a couple of browns, like transition shades and things like that. It's a nice palette. I do think it's a nice palette. I just think that if it was a better formula, it would have been like top notch. Anyway, so let me know what you think. Are you interested in the iCandy Pina Colada palette? Are you not? Do you think that the swatches are good? What do you feel about palettes where you have to remove the first layer in order to get the goodness underneath? How do you feel about that? Let me know down in the comments below and we can have a conversation. Hopefully tomorrow I'll have a new look, like tutorial using this palette as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.